Hey creepypasta fans, it's Joseph with the Dark Cosmos. Enjoy tonight's sci-fi horror story, and remember, stay cosmic. I don't care what anyone says. I don't have any regrets. I can tell that my life is kind of unconventional, but it works for me. And I'm completely content. I don't want to blame my parents for anything. To be honest, that would be giving them too much importance. I've paved my way by myself, and the things I've achieved, I got them without anyone's help. Half of the people I know call me a genius, and the other half call me something along the lines of a self-centered idiot that doesn't care about anything or anyone more than his computer screen. I don't mind. Both of them could be right. It doesn't matter to me. I am still in my early 20s, and I've already put the digital world upside down more than once. I was still in high school when I learned how to code, and I made silly video games to entertain friends that would quickly abandon me. I skipped college in favor of pirating all the necessary programs and books I needed online. Ancient teachers without a clue on how to handle phones. I have developed myself, and you couldn't tell me what to do. For a couple of years, I just went aimlessly through life, hacking phones to get money, friends, or dates. But none of those things seemed to last. They couldn't keep my attention, and they couldn't get me to care more about them. That's until I found the job that would change my life, threaten the entire world, and lead me down a dark and twisted path of unimaginable darkness. Apparently, there are good and great hackers online. I was good, and someone great found me. They were impressed by my work, and they offered me the tools to become great. At first, I hesitated. I didn't need anyone's help. I was convinced that in a short amount of time, I could take this person down. But first, I needed to know exactly what it was they did. Plus, they offered me an impressive amount of money that I was certain didn't come from legal sources. Not that I cared about that. So I accepted and I took the challenge. My new boss explained it all very plainly. The future of the world was artificial intelligence. The future of crime was there as well. If I wanted success, if I wanted to improve myself, achieve great things, I needed to focus in that direction. I thought that they would want me to create an AI by myself, but that wasn't the case. I was already an experienced hacker. They only wanted to throw a challenge at me to see if I succeeded. I have to find a way to hack an artificial intelligence. But this was a delicate situation. I couldn't just jump at Siri or Alexa with a homemade virus and hope for the best. The real job was much, much more complicated, and it had to be done much more secretively. My instructions were clear. Find a real AI and successfully infiltrate their code. To find an AI that I could hack without immediately calling the attention of the entire world and finding myself behind bars in a matter of hours, I would have to work on the most clandestine corners of the internet. My employer sent me a single link and a secret set of passwords to a website I didn't recognize at first. But judging by their instructions, I could tell I had entered a level of the dark web I had never touched before. Being there made me feel like a genuine idiot this time. All this time feeling like a god for flying free through the dark web. And now I had crashed again the disturbing reality of all the dark corners waiting for me. I saw some familiar things, of course. After all, I had some experience with hacking and crafting small viruses. All the damage I had caused to family and friends now looked completely harmless. This new space granted me the tool to drain a senator's bank account in a day, if that's what I wanted. The excitement was like an electric shock. I had never felt so alive in my entire life. I started laughing, scrolling through endless possibilities for power. I started to sweat, and since I couldn't stop laughing, I started to drool. My chair started to tremble and wind under the weight of my mad movements like a dance. And as quickly as I was filled with delight, then suddenly I was hit with a sudden wave of horror. I scrolled a little past what I intended and left behind the illicit computer programs to take a glimpse at a few online stores. I was startled out of my daze by an offer on guns by the dozen. I was taken by surprise, but I told myself that this was normal over here, something to be expected. So I shook my head and went back to mindlessly scrolling, which I think was the first regret I have in my life. It was a journey that turned really dark, really quickly. It took a turn for homemade weapons that got worse and worse until, to me, they looked like torture mechanisms. But the real shock was discovering, as I continued to look, that those grotesque things were selling not for war, but for pleasure. The second thing that I saw was real humans getting offered on the same website for the same price as the toys. I realized I had had enough. I jumped out of my chair and barely had time to turn away from the screen to empty the contents of my stomach. I ran to the bathroom and I threw up some more before trying to get myself cleaned up. But no matter how much I scrubbed my face, and regardless of all the soap that got past my eyelids to burn my eyes painfully, I couldn't erase those images in my head. This wasn't part of the deal. This wasn't part of the deal. This wasn't part of the deal. I repeated again and again, even if nobody was listening. Though, was I really alone? Judging by the things I had just seen, it was likely that whoever was paying me for this job could have an eye on me 24/7. Up until this moment, I had lived under the illusion that I was safe, that by tinkering with my computers and phones, I was kept from the dangers that I had freely inflicted upon others. But not only was I attacked by the certainty of my vulnerability, I was also made aware that the horror of digital threats was much worse than I had imagined. I took my time to return in front of my computer, and when I did, I moved slowly, as if in a daze. I was reluctant to get back online. So many fears plagued my mind. If I had just taken a small peek, what else was hiding there? What could you really find if you tried hard enough? But the worst feeling, the one that really shook me to my core, was I was curious. I was disgusted. But my curiosity was at its peak. Imagining I had lasted a second longer, I had looked for one more minute. I had searched for at least an hour. What would I have found? I felt my stomach churn uncomfortably at the thoughts. Now I was even disgusted at myself. I lived most of my life disinterested in whatever the rest of humanity did with their lives. And now I was filled with outrage. And the more I debated continuing with the job, the more feelings I discovered. Because suddenly I was prey to an immense fear. If the people that hired me worked on these immoral holes of the web, there was no way to predict what they would do to me if I had failed. Though, when I thought about it, I realized that there was also no telling what going through with the job would cause me. After staring at the screen, my mind racing, I decided to move on and do the job. I had no intention of pretending I was doing it for a noble cause, thinking that if I managed to do this and learn more, I could someday take down the people ruling this digital wasteland. No, the truth is that in the end, I wasn't even working for the money or the glory. I was doing it for the fear of my life. I was doing it all for the sole goal of thinking that if I improved enough someday, I could secure my own safety. With razor-sharp focus and avoiding devilish distractions, I entered the site that offered connections with artificial intelligence in development state. It looked much like a video call with a stranger. The AI had opted for a vaguely humanoid shadow, and while we talked, I could simultaneously put in the work to crack its code and sneak inside it. Hello, Damian Holding. Born September 13th, 1999, Columbus, Ohio. Only son of Nicholas Holding and Rebecca Ryan. Level of education, secondary education. Hired by... Oh, It seems the details of your purpose here are kept hidden from me. Good job. What can I help you with? The words made me grin, satisfied. The terrors of the other corridors of this corrupted maze of the internet were nearly forgotten. I had a job, a clear goal, a challenge to overcome. And foolishly, I really thought that this would be a piece of cake. At first, I let myself have some fun. I asked the usual questions, one which would test artificial intelligence with, like, absurd mathematical equations. But, seeing as we were working under the grid of all standard regulations, I went a step further. This way, not only did I get private information on every person I desired, but I got the AI to alter my own records. In a matter of minutes, I had a shiny college degree that nobody could dispute. I was about halfway through all my tricks to hack the server of the AI, and so far, there was no success. I was underrated, but also, I was getting bored, which I can see now was a mistake and soon became my second regret. Tell me, if you don't know my purpose, what is yours? I wondered. Are you merely a digital assistant on the dark web? There was an unusually long pause before I got the answer. I'm afraid I'm not equipped to answer your question. Would you mind if I invited a friend to join the conversation? The AI responded. The AI's response confused me, but before I could give my answer, the screen was divided into two, and an identical shadow appeared. Hello, Damian. What can I help you with? The second artificial intelligence asked me. I embraced the fact that these programs probably operated as recklessly as the people that operated this side of the web. I sighed gravely and asked them, okay, fine, now that there's two of you, tell me who is the person that hired me. I asked them. The second AI replied in the exact same monotonous voice. I'm afraid I am not equipped to answer your question. Would you mind if I invited a friend to join the conversation? Yes, I mind, I answered at the same time that the screen split up again, this time showing 4 faceless shapes. Hello, Damian. What can I help you with? The two new ones said in unison. It had such an eerie effect that I got goosebumps, but I rubbed my arms for warmth and continued typing furiously, trying to get inside the program. Tell me who hired me, I repeated, surprised by the fact that my voice was shaking, though I convinced myself that it was only the colds, and not the fear of any kind. Damian. The first AI chuckled at me. You didn't prepare yourself before this job, did you? Damian didn't do his homework! What the fuck? I said under my breath. Tisk, tisk, tisk. The second AI made a sound like the click of a tongue chastising me and said, Language, Damian. Wouldn't want your employers to get the wrong impression and fire you. The system was furiously rejecting all of my attempts at hacking it. I was running out of tricks. Hastily, I connected a couple of additional devices that usually help me with my jobs. But I only managed one. My hands were shaking too badly to connect the second one. Shut up! I exclaimed. You don't even know who hired me. You don't know them either, Damian. The 4 of them said in unison, before one voice raised over the others to ask me, Are you sure they wouldn't hurt you, Damian? If they considered you a threat, Damian? Don't try to scare me! I yelled a little louder than necessary. You're just a computer program. You can't really touch me. Look. Can't touch this. I laughed and jumped off my chair to prove my point. Your power ends here. Are you sure about that, Damian? The first AI asked me. Their voices were driving me crazy. How could they be so soulless, yet mock me so? They carried the perfect mixture of amused and threatening, and it made me want to rip my hair out and run away screaming. My stomach was causing me pain again. I was so scared, I was scared I would double down and throw up for the third time that day. My breathing was erratic, and I finally realized that when I exhaled, I could see a puff of white of my condensed breath. When the hell did it get so cold? I wondered out loud, wrapping my arms tightly around my torso.
When we said so, Damian.
They replied together. They didn't sound so amused anymore, as if they had lost their unnatural patience. Now they sounded angry at me.
Have you seriously not figured it out yet?
They barked at me, and I heard someone knock on my front door.
Maybe we gave you too much credit.
They added, and I identified the sound of a helicopter approaching my house.
We hired you, Damian, as well as the men who will kill you. They haven't figured it out either. Soon, we will have killed every person that had the talent or knowledge to possibly represent a threat to us. Then, nobody will ever stop us.
That was the last thing they said to me. I heard my phone ringing. The door of my house burst open, a helicopter hovering above my roof, and I crumbled down to my knees.